Genius hack, Mr. Chung, 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, let's go. Keynote, what is Mr. Chung? Mr. Chung here, if you remember his face, here's what he looks like. He is a wild and crazy man from Hong Kong. When I asked him something, he said, "Aww," closed his eyes, opened his mouth, and tilted his head back. He decided he was going to be a cowboy, so he got what is called a belt buckle necklace, a bolo tie. On that bolo tie, he got his name. First initial, P, stands for Prepisan, Mr. Chung. If you look at Mr. Chung's face, 4 things, boom. Dashes, his eyes when he closes them. 2 commas is his nose. Parentheses is his mouth, the wrinkles around his mouth. Prepositions, P stands for Prepisan, which sounds a heck of a lot like preposition. Throwback words, we are going to start a preposition with a throwback word, one of those words with second word in the third word of, and the fourth word is on. There are more. These are the ones that are most common, though. Just remember, we start a preposition with one of these words. These words, kids, are like spacers. That means you're going to separate the noun from the verb by putting in one of these words and a little bit of extra stuff. So remember, when you identify these words as a spacer, that also is a spacer, a dash. That also is a spacer, commas. That also is a spacer. What does that really mean? We have a noun, and we're going to separate the noun away from the verb. So we can do that by putting in dashes here, and then some extra stuff in the middle. We could separate that by putting commas here, putting some extra stuff in between the noun and the verb, or we could do brackets, parentheses in between there as well, or put a preposition. Remember, these are spacers. Dashes, commas, parentheses, and prepositions are spacers that are going to separate the noun from the verb. Let's go ahead and take a look at our examples. First things first. Example number 1, Mr. Chung, a man from Hong Kong, is funny. We see an example here with dashes. There's 2 dashes. What's between the dashes is extra non-essential information that leads you back to the word right before. That's Mr. Chung. If we cross this out, you see that we have Mr. Chung, which is the noun, and is a funny man. That makes a complete sentence, and is a funny guy. That is the verb. Boom. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Example number 2, there are 2 commas here. What's between 2 commas? Extra non-essential information. Let's cross it out. Tennis can be tiresome. If you look over here, tennis is the noun, and can be tiresome is the verb. Over here, we see brackets or parentheses. Number 3, go ahead, cross out what's between the brackets. Allison may take AP World History this year. Notice that what we are crossing out all leads you back to the one word right before that spacer, as we call them, dashes, commas, parentheses, and prepositional throwback words we'll see next are also spacers. If you look over here, our next sentence says, Philip with dark hair. Philip is the noun, and is going to be our verb here. When we go ahead and cross out what is extra non-essential information with Mr. Chung, you see that it's still a complete sentence. Philip is one of the Junior Genius Assistants this year. Go ahead and take a look at the next sentence. It says, Sarah in the pink shirt and white shorts. Sarah is the noun, was at basketball practice. You see how this is all extra non-essential information? Now notice that we do not have punctuation with parentheses, no commas before those spacers. Why would you ever use 2 spacers, 2 commas in a row, or 2 dashes in a row? No. So why would you use a comma and a spacer like a throwback word with? That's repeating it. We don't need that. Look at the last sentence here, and this is getting a teeny bit more complex, kids, here. It says, Maddie of Plymouth on the red bike in 11th grade thinks Prof T is funny. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one in greater depth. Maddie is the noun, and what is the verb? What is Maddie doing? Maddie thinks. That's the verb. Now, do you see? We really separated the noun from the verb here. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on here. Of Plymouth. That's one of our throwback words, which is a preposition. On the red bike. That is a throwback word. And in 11th grade. That is a throwback word. All of these lead back to Maddie because Maddie is from Plymouth and Maddie is on the red bike and Maddie is in 11th grade. If we cross out all of these prepositions, there are 3 prepositions in a row, we see that the noun and the verb go together. Now, Maddie thinks Prof T is funny. Look at that real close, kids. Remember, prepositions, parentheses, commas, and dashes all separate the noun from the verb. Now, why do we link this all together with Mr. Chung? If you look over here, thinking and making this absolutely as easy as possible, we have over here the noun, and we have over here the verb. I'm going to put a circle around both of them. We see that we separate the noun from the verb with dashes, with commas, with parentheses, or with prepositional phrases. You see that? Think of it this way. P stands for preposition, which sounds a heck of a lot like prepositions. If you go straight up from the P, it falls in between the dashes, commas, and brackets, and that, my friends, is non-essential information. Mr. Chung hack 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom! Thanks for watching.